Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let me talk to you. We are walking into a new season, a year of possibility, a year of potential, a year of divine alignment. But I came to tell you something that may shock your system. When God gives you a dream, a vision, or a plan, it rarely comes with applause. It doesn't arrive with a trumpet sound or social media buzz. It comes in quietness, in stillness, in that sacred moment when you're alone with your thoughts, when no one's looking, when nobody is clapping. It drops in your spirit like a whisper, a seed, and just like a seed, it must be covered, buried, and protected in order to grow. There is a power that comes from privacy. There is an anointing that flows from discretion. You don't have to post every move you make. You don't have to proclaim every thought that enters your heart. We live in a world that promotes visibility, but God often works through invisibility. Some of his greatest works are done in secret places, hidden places, quiet places. You may be tempted to share your plans for 2025, but be careful. What you share too early may not survive the exposure. You see, a seed doesn't need sunshine every minute. It doesn't need attention to grow. It needs soil. It needs quiet. It needs darkness. It needs time. Your plan for the next year may be heaven sent, but if you uncover it too soon, it can dry out. Not because it wasn't from God, but because you exposed it to voices that didn't water it. They weakened it. People can't kill a dream they don't know about. Sometimes the best protection is your silence. There's something about moving in silence that builds strength. You gain clarity in silence. You gain momentum in silence. When you stop telling everybody what you're going to do and start focusing on what you must do, something shifts inside you. You stop performing. You stop trying to prove. You stop seeking approval. And you start building from a place of authenticity, not insecurity. We often think telling people our goals makes us accountable, but the wrong kind of accountability can become a prison. Telling someone who lacks vision about your dream will not hold you accountable. It will hold you hostage. You'll begin adjusting your dream to fit their comfort zone. You'll start second, guessing yourself based on their limited imagination. And before long, the vision becomes diluted, scattered, polluted. No longer what God gave you, but what you allowed others to reshape. Some of the most effective people don't speak much. They act, they don't announce, they align. They don't need a crowd to get started. They've learned that privacy sharpens focus. When you're not performing for people, you can hear God more clearly. You can course correct more often. You can fail quietly and grow deeply. It's in the hidden moments that character is formed, and character is what sustains you when success arrives. So don't let the hunger for validation push you to reveal what should remain concealed. Your plan may be brilliant, your vision may be divine, but it's not yet ripe for exposure. Understand this: the earlier the stage, the greater the risk of contamination. Protect it while it's forming. Shield it while it's small. Let God breathe on it in private before you let the world see it in public. You've got to treat your dream like it matters, like it's holy, because it is. When something matters to you, you protect it. You don't toss it into casual conversation. You don't explain it to everyone who asks, not because you're arrogant, but because you're intentional. You understand the power of timing. You recognize the necessity of guarding what's not yet ready. There are people assigned to your future who won't understand your present. If you explain too soon, they'll mislabel what you're building. They'll discourage what they don't understand. They'll criticize what they were never called to carry. That's why Joseph ended up in a pit. He shared a dream with people who weren't mature enough to hear it. Some dreams are too heavy to share. Some plans are too holy to discuss. So walk differently in 2025. Walk with quiet confidence. Speak less and do more. Let your actions introduce what your words once tried to explain. Let your execution be the evidence of your excellence. It's not about secrecy. It's about strategy. It's not about hiding. It's about honoring the process. When you honor the process, you protect the promise, and when the time is right, you won't need to announce your plan. Your results will speak so loudly, you won't have to say a word.
Let them wonder, let them speculate, let them talk, because while they're talking, you'll be building. While they're guessing, you'll be growing. And when the vision finally shows up, when it finally walks into the room with full power and undeniable fruit, the very people who doubted you will have to say, "Look what the Lord has done." So keep it quiet, keep it sacred, keep it moving. Your silence is not weakness. It is wisdom. Your privacy is not avoidance. It is protection. Your discretion is not fear. It is faith in God's timing, and when it's time, the world will see what you built in the dark. When God places a calling on your life, when He breathes purpose into your lungs, when He drops a divine assignment into your heart, it is not meant for everyone to understand, and it surely is not meant for everyone to carry.
You must understand that some people, though well-meaning, simply do not have the spiritual capacity, the emotional maturity, or the faith infrastructure to handle the weight of what God is calling you to do. You have to stop expecting applause from people who are not even in the audience God assigned to your stage. Some folks weren't there when you cried in silence. They weren't there when you laid on the floor praying for direction. They weren't there when you were battling doubt, shame, insecurity, and fear. And yet, we want to bring them into the next chapter of our story, assuming they will support a vision they were never given. That's why it's dangerous to share your plans prematurely, not because your dream isn't real, not because your idea isn't powerful, but because the people you're telling may not have the bandwidth to believe in something they cannot see. They might love you, but they still can't see you being great. They might respect you, but they don't respect your dream, and it's not their fault. It's not their calling. Some people are so limited by their own fear that they project it onto your future. They will try to reduce your next level down to the size of their comfort zone. If you tell them you're going to start a business, they'll say, "Be careful, that's risky." If you say you're going back to school, they'll say, "You're too old for that." If you tell them you're going to travel the world, they'll ask, "How will you afford that?" They speak not from faith, but from fear, and if you're not careful, their fear will become your inner voice.
Their doubt will echo in your head. Their disbelief will start to sound like logic, and before you know it, your confidence is shaken. Not because you were wrong, but because you shared your calling with someone who wasn't qualified to carry it. You have to learn to discern. Discernment is not about judging people. It's about recognizing alignment. Not everyone who is close to you is called to go with you. Some people are part of your history, not your destiny. Some people were assigned to the last chapter, but they're not equipped for what's next. And if you drag them into 2025, they'll become a weight, not a wing. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that understanding equals love. You think if they love me, they'll support my dream. But love does not always equal vision. You can be deeply loved and totally misunderstood at the same time. Even Jesus experienced this. His own brothers didn't believe in him. The people from his hometown couldn't see past his past. "Isn't that the carpenter's son?" they said. Sometimes the people who know you the longest will believe in you the least. They're familiar with your flaws. They remember your failures. They see you through the lens of who you were, not who you're becoming, and that's why telling them your plans can be dangerous. They'll reduce your purpose to your past. They'll try to measure your potential by your mistakes. And if you're not rooted in what God said, their opinions will plant doubt where God planted purpose. There is a holiness to your calling, a sacredness to your vision, and it must be handled with care. You don't owe anyone an explanation for where God is taking you. You don't need to defend what heaven has assigned to your hands. When God calls you, he doesn't send a survey to your friends. He doesn't need to get a second opinion. His calling is sovereign, his assignment is specific, and his timing is perfect. Protect your purpose from premature exposure. Don't lay your vision in the hands of people who will poke holes in it just to see if it leaks. Don't let someone else's limited imagination shrink the size of your dream. The very people you're trying to convince may be the ones God is protecting you from, not because they're bad, but because they're not built for the burden. This is the year you must learn the power of quiet obedience. You don't need a cheerleader to obey God. You don't need a committee to start moving. You don't need consensus to walk in your calling. Obedience is not about who agrees with you. It's about who assigned you. And if God gave you the instruction, then walk boldly even if you have to walk alone. You don't need to defend it. You don't need to explain it. You just need to do it. There will come a time when your results will speak so loudly that you won't have to say a word. The same people who questioned your plans will be the ones asking how you did it. The same ones who doubted you will be quoting you. But that moment won't come because you convinced them it'll come because you obeyed God in silence. So stop trying to make them understand. Some things aren't meant to be understood. They're meant to be revealed. In 2025, move with discretion, walk with wisdom, and remember, not everyone can handle your calling. Because it wasn't given to them, it was given to you. Some things can only grow in silence. Some breakthroughs can only be born in stillness. When God places a dream inside of you, an idea, a plan, a vision, it's like a seed planted deep within your spiritual womb. And just like a seed in the natural world, it requires a hidden season, a gestation period, a quiet place where it can stretch, form, develop, and mature without the risk of being tampered with, judged, or destroyed. Everything powerful in creation begins in silence. A baby is formed in the dark of the womb. A seed sprouts in the unseen soil beneath the ground. Muscles are built in silence while you train in obscurity. Likewise, your vision for 2025, whatever it may be, deserves that same sacred period of development. That season where it's just you, God, and the work. No distractions, no applause, no explanations. You don't have to reveal what God is still forming. In fact, it may be dangerous to do so, because there are people who will try to dissect what hasn't even been fully shaped yet. They'll try to measure a seed like it's already a tree. They'll ask for fruit before you've had time to grow roots. And in that moment, if you've spoken too soon, you'll find yourself trying to prove something instead of protecting something. There is a spiritual principle at work here that must not be overlooked. The greater the assignment, the deeper the concealment. When God is preparing you for something great, He often hides you first, not to punish you, but to protect the process. Think about it. When a woman is pregnant, you don't see the baby right away. You don't hear it. You don't touch it, but that doesn't mean nothing's happening. The silence is not emptiness. It is activity without visibility. In the same way, when you're building in silence, you are not being still. You are being shaped. God is forming character, building endurance, stretching your mind, and strengthening your spirit. You are learning how to carry the weight of what's coming. You're growing in private so that you won't collapse in public. Because it's one thing to give birth to a dream, and it's another to raise it. It's one thing to have an idea, but it's another to sustain it. And that's why silence is so important. Silence allows you to develop without interruption. When you're not explaining yourself, you can hear God more clearly. When you're not seeking approval, you can move more freely. When you're not broadcasting every little step, you're not wasting energy trying to convince people who aren't assigned to your journey anyway. Sometimes we get so anxious to be seen that we miscarry what we were meant to carry to full term. We announce too early. We expose too quickly. We share with people who don't have the emotional intelligence, spiritual maturity, or even the love to support what we're building. And then we wonder why we feel disappointed, discouraged, or disoriented. But the disappointment didn't come from failure. It came from exposure. You put something fragile into an environment that wasn't fit to nurture it.
You let voices into your process that had no business being there. You invited opinions into a moment that only required obedience. This is not the year to be careless with your calling. This is not the season to be loud about things that still need silence.
There are some victories that will only come if you can learn how to wait quietly. There are some plans that will only be executed if you can carry them in secret until the time is right. Let God shape it. Let the plan form. Let the dream grow legs before you ask it to run. Let it marinate. Let it gain strength. Let it push against the walls of your comfort zone. Don't rob the vision of its development by seeking validation too soon. Don't rush out of the womb what God is still knitting together. Think about Mary, the mother of Jesus. When the angel told her she would carry the Son of God, she didn't go around town making declarations. She pondered these things in her heart. She carried it in silence. She protected it in private. And when the time came, the world saw the fruit of her obedience. That's your model for 2025. Hold it in your heart. Protect it with your prayers. Let the Holy Spirit minister to you in the secret place. Not everything needs to be shared. Not everything needs to be understood right away. Some things are between you and God, and that's enough. Don't be afraid of the hidden season. Don't run from the quiet. Don't be discouraged because nobody knows what you're building. They don't need to know. The cocoon doesn't look like the butterfly, but give it time. The womb doesn't reveal the child, but wait for the due date. It may not look like much right now, but when the fullness of time arrives, what's hidden will be revealed, and what's growing in private will be undeniable in public. So stay silent, stay focused, stay faithful. Let the vision mature in the dark, and when the light finally hits it, the world won't just see your dream. They'll see how strong it became because you had the wisdom to wait in silence. Every new level of your life demands a new level of discipline. And when God is preparing you for something greater, He will not only speak to your destiny, He will speak to your decisions. You cannot carry a fresh anointing with old habits. You cannot walk into 2025 with the same mindset that limited you in 2024. New results require new routines, and that transformation begins in your private life. Your greatest weapon in this next season won't be your charisma, your talent, or your education. It will be your ability to stay consistent in silence. When you set your mind to a vision, when you begin to structure your days around a purpose, when you choose to prioritize growth over gossip and purpose over popularity, you'll begin to see God multiply what you've been managing. But consistency only works when it's sustained, especially when no one is watching. This is where most people miss their blessing. They want to be rewarded for what they do occasionally, but God blesses what you do consistently. Your routine is more prophetic than your declaration. You can shout about your plans all you want, but if your calendar doesn't align with your confession, you're not walking in purpose. You're still entertaining potential. It's time to get serious about your patterns. You can't talk about building a legacy and spend your nights wasting time. You can't talk about launching a business and not steward your mornings. You can't cry for a breakthrough and still feed the habits that break you down. The next version of you is not just an idea. It is a discipline, and discipline doesn't begin in front of people. It begins when you're alone. That's why this season of silence is so crucial. When you're not performing for anyone, you have no one to impress, just work to do. That's when real growth begins, when it's just you and the grind, you and the early morning, you and the late night, you and the word, you and your purpose. That's when you stop talking about change and actually become the change. God doesn't bless lip service. He blesses lifestyle, and many of us have delayed our break. Through not because we lack the calling, but because we lack the character to sustain it. We got excited too fast. We spoke too soon. We announced before we aligned, but this time has to be different. You've said enough. Now it's time to show it. Your consistency will be your witness. Your routine will be your sermon.
Your private discipline will speak louder than any public declaration ever could. While others are busy trying to look productive, you'll be too focused on being effective. While others are posting about progress, you'll be walking in purpose. Because consistency doesn't need applause, it creates fruit. Fruit is undeniable. You don't have to argue with people about fruit. You don't have to explain fruit. You just show it. You don't have to convince them that you've been working. Your results will reveal what your silence concealed. They'll say, "How did you build that?" You'll say, "Brick by brick." They'll ask, "Where did this come from?" You'll say, "From the hours you didn't see." This is why secrecy and consistency are spiritual partners. When you keep your plans to yourself, you free your spirit from the pressure of performance. You stop wasting energy explaining what you're doing and use that energy to actually do it. You stop managing people's expectations and start managing your own elevation. You reclaim your power by focusing on what truly matters, your growth, your habits, your mission. Don't worry if they don't notice yet. Don't get discouraged because nobody sees what you're building. You're not invisible. You're incubating, and when you're in the incubation season, the most important thing you can do is stay consistent. Stay on the wall. Keep showing up. Keep reading. Keep planning. Keep building. Keep working. No one sees a house during the foundation phase. Nobody comes to applaud you when you're digging and sweating and laying blocks, but let that structure start rising. Then the same people who ignored your work will want to walk through your success. But here's the key. They don't get credit for what they didn't help you carry. So keep your head down and your spirit up. Let your work ethic be your worship. Let your discipline be your devotion. You're not doing it for attention. You're doing it because you heard God's instruction. You're not doing it for followers. You're doing it for fruit. And when that fruit finally comes, you won't owe anyone an explanation, just an invitation to taste and see that the Lord is good. Don't let excitement rob you of execution. Don't let hype become a substitute for hard work. Don't let talk become the thief of traction. The quiet grind always outlasts the loud intention. In 2025, your strength will come from your consistency, not the kind you perform when people are around, but the kind you keep when it's just you and your calling. When you stay faithful to the process, God will be faithful to the promise. And when it's finally time to be seen, the only thing louder than your voice will be your fruit. You've got to understand that spiritual warfare is not always loud. It's not always a demon in the dark or a storm in the sky. Sometimes the attack is a whisper sent to distract you, discourage you, and disarm you. It comes in the form of a conversation, a casual comment, a cynical question. One moment you're focused and the next you're doubting. One moment you're walking boldly toward your vision and the next you're wondering if it's even worth it. That's why keeping quiet about your plans is not just wisdom. It's warfare. Because when the enemy cannot destroy your calling, he will attempt to distract your focus. And there is no quicker way to derail your purpose than by opening the door to opinions that don't belong. Some of the people you talk to are not your friends. They are portals. Portals through which insecurity, doubt, and fear walk in and try to infect your vision. You see, the enemy doesn't always need to attack your dream directly. All he needs to do is place one person in your ear who questions you enough to make you question yourself. All he needs is one sarcastic laugh, one sigh, dyed remark, one "Are you sure?" And suddenly the fire that was burning bright in your spirit starts to flicker. You begin to adjust your dream to fit their doubt. You start shrinking your plans so they'll stop feeling uncomfortable. You downplay what God said just to make someone else feel secure. But make no mistake, this is spiritual warfare. The enemy wants to kill your momentum before it has a chance to manifest. He wants to clip your wings while you're still in the nest, and one of his greatest weapons is premature exposure. Because the moment you share a vision before it's rooted deep enough, it becomes vulnerable to outside interference. You allow people who weren't in the prayer room with you to start influencing the plan God gave you in private.
That's why this season demands secrecy. Not because you're being secretive, but because you're being strategic. The battlefield has changed. The attack isn't always against your health, your money, or your family. Sometimes the attack is against your clarity. The enemy wants to confuse you, delay you, discourage you. Because if he can't stop what's coming, he'll try to make sure you never step into it fully. You've got to realize that when God gives you a divine plan, it's not for public discussion, it's for private execution. It's a blueprint for you to build in silence so that when the structure finally stands, it's too strong to be shaken. Talking about it too early gives the enemy a map to where your future is being formed. He can't read your heart, but he can hear your mouth. And if you talk too much, you give him coordinates to your destiny. There are moments in life when silence is your sword, when your quiet obedience becomes louder in the heavens than any announcement ever could be on earth. You protect the oil on your life by guarding the atmosphere around your assignment. You don't just need the right plan, you need the right environment. An environment where your vision can grow without being questioned. A space where your progress won't be picked apart by people who have never built anything themselves. Because let's be honest, some of the loudest critics have the least credentials. They haven't prayed like you. They haven't fasted like you. They haven't carried what you're carrying, and yet we give them front row seats to the sacred work God is doing in our soul. You don't need their validation. You don't need their approval. You need to stay locked in on what God said and let the fruit speak when the time is right. This next season of your life is going to require spiritual discipline. You cannot afford to be distracted. You cannot afford to be pulled into meaningless dialogue with people who don't even have the spiritual insight to understand what's happening in your life. You cannot afford to waste time explaining divine downloads to carnal minds. That's like trying to teach calculus to someone who's still learning to count. Protect your plans like they're holy, because they are. Treat your vision like it's fragile, because in its early stages it is. Guard your focus like it's your future, because it is, and remember, just because the warfare is quiet doesn't mean it isn't real. The enemy is subtle. He knows how to use words, people, platforms, and even your own insecurity against you. That's why your silence must be intentional. Your boundaries must be sacred. Your focus must be fierce. And when the enemy comes whispering through people you trusted, through conversations you didn't expect, through doubts you thought you buried, you've got to stand on what God said. Let them talk, let them speculate, let them assume, but you build, you pray, you grind, you obey, you stay silent, not because you're hiding, but because you're winning. Because when it's finally time to reveal what you've been working on, when the anointing matures, when the plan is complete, when the foundation is set, they won't be able to stop what God has already sealed. They'll see the manifestation, but they won't understand the battle. And by then, it'll be too late for the enemy to do anything about it. That's how you win in 2025, in silence, with discipline, in focus. And through spiritual warfare that's fought not just with shouting, but with strategy. So as we prepare to walk into 2025, I need you to understand, this year is not for show, it's for strategy. This is not the time to talk, this is the time to work. Not the time to impress people, it's the time to obey God. Because what He placed inside of you is too valuable to be exposed too early, too sacred to be thrown before those who can't comprehend it, and too powerful to be watered down by empty conversations. You don't owe anyone a preview of what God is still producing. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to prove your potential. Your destiny does not need an audience. Your next level doesn't need approval. All it needs is your focus, your faith, and your silence. Let this be the year you protect the plan. Let this be the year you preserve your progress. Let this be the year you build in silence, grow in grace, and execute in excellence. The world doesn't need another announcement. It needs evidence. And when the time is right,
The evidence of your faith, your discipline, your consistency, and your obedience will speak louder than any words ever could.
Don't talk about it. Be about it. Don't post it. Plant it. Don't seek attention. Seek alignment, because the next thing God is going to do in your life will not need a caption, a confirmation, or a comment section.
It will be so undeniable, so fruitful, so timely, that those who doubted you will have no choice but to watch what silence and obedience can produce. 2025 is not for talking. It is for transforming. It is for birthing what's been building in the dark. It is for walking in the fullness of what you've been carrying in secret. And when it finally breaks forth, when the vision becomes visible, when the promise turns to power, every silent step you took will be worth it.
Stay quiet, stay focused, stay faithful, and watch God speak for you.